So now it's time to get the sunroof fully fitted. So painting the other side's good, new sunroof seal. Now these aren't very cheap, but it's pointless trying to put an old one on there. So we're going to get this on, you've got to trim it to size, and then I've taken the brackets off, I've left the sliders on. So you want the seal on, then you put the sunroof in the car where it should be, and then you can attach the relevant points to secure it on. And then once it's on there, you've got these which adjust up and down to make sure the sunroof is nice and level. So let's get that seal on. So we've got the seal on. So what I've done is just push it on all the way around so it's even. It will come longer than you need. Once it's all on, push it down. Obviously this is under here. That's just a big thick blanket, a nice clean old duvet cover. So when I'm pushing this down, I'm not going to scratch the paint we've just spent ages doing. So make sure this is all pushed down nice and tight. So you can see on the inside there, the seam is touching. Now when you get around to this point, it's not hard to cut through this, but the way I do it is get it as close as you can, just so it's sort of, you can't push it over like that, and then peel it off a bit. And then with a bit left over, open it up, and you'll be left with the rubber stuff inside. And what you're going to do is glue that onto the end. Inside there you've got more of this tube, so you want to glue that onto the end of there. Once that's glued on there, you will then, the way I put it on is pull a bit more of it off and put it on like that first, feed it on, push that bit of tube in there because there's a bit of a gap inside there. So once that's on there, you're left with a raised bit, and start from this side, push all down, and it'll close up that gap nicely. Then we flip it over, seal's on, and you can hardly see the join, sort of just see it there. So there we go, that's the seal on, fits lovely. And now we're going to just plop the sunroof in where it should be, and then go from inside the car underneath and attach the runners and adjust those. Right, so excuse the dust, so what you want to do now is just rest the sunroof on where it should be as gently as you can, because you don't want to start scratching stuff. So once it sits on there, you can then go into inside. So again, excuse the dust, it picks up everything and sets me off. So this is the adjustment we've got at the moment. So this biggest adjusting screw comes down so far. They are different side to side, but only a little bit. And all this does is keep the height of the sunroof, but also there's a plastic guide, if it will zoom in, just over the back there, there's a plastic guide. Don't think it'll get it. There you go. That guide at the back, this needs to be so high, well, high enough, that needs to be high enough that guide clears the bracket there, which I'll show you when you open the sunroof to make more sense. That side of it is, God, that's already. So that side of it's pretty simple, as it is. So when it comes in, that forces that side up, go up. So what we're going to do is just loosen these two screws, push the sunroof itself forward, and then tighten the screws up again. So what I was saying about the guide, you can't see it, but the guide I showed you before sits under there. It runs along here and eventually gets to this point, and this is what pushes the arms down to move the flap down. Now if you've got that adjustment screw too far down, the guide comes up here and hits that. So you need it high enough that it comes and it clears the top of that, but also not too high that when the sunroof's closed it sticks up. Right, so I've sorted the back left corner. What it is, you see that screw there right at the back, that has got a little adjuster on the back, so it's a little half moon shaped section that sits inside the slot of that arm with grooves in the back. So what you want to do is when your sunroof, if you've got the problem, is get your sunroof closed, push it up with your hand on the actual sunroof so you've got it the height you want, loosen that nut, and the little arm will drop down, then do the nut back up tight, and the next time you go down and then close it back up, it's got the extra few mil on that arm to force pushing the sunroof up. It is a new seal, so it will be a lot tighter than the original. So that's all that done. All the adjusters are tightened up. Again, tightened up there. Same detail on the back. So what you've got next, again, I'll say again, excuse the dust, disgusting. This is your rain tray. So what this does, it's quite awkward getting afterwards, but it's better out the way, because otherwise it's a nightmare getting the sunroof out. So this sits, screws on to the sunroof there, and all it does, because you've got a seal at the back with a join, any water that does leak through there goes into this and is directed off down either side into the rain trays. So we're just going to screw this back on now, and that'll be done, and then put the springs back on there. And then hopefully, once you've done that, with the rain trays on in the sunroof, double check it goes back and back forward again. Doesn't lock up anywhere, which it does. And now, the last panel. Now I wrapped this up 3 years ago, so hopefully it will be in good nick and not. Well, that survived all right. You can see the lines down it. That's just naturally where the sunroof wears over time. So now we'll get that in the car and clip it back on. So holding this on, all it's got is these metal clips which line up with the holes. This is the front and the back edge. Before you put it in, make sure you've got these sliders on. Just a little plastic slider. Hold them on. Just going to get some spray glue around these edge bits just to help it stick it back down. Again, this is glue that's put on there in the late 80s, so I'll just put some glue on there and that'll be that stuck down. There we go. So the awkward way to get these in is get the sunroof right back, put this in from the top like it is. It sits inside these aluminium ones, so get that side in first, plop it in, take the arm off, 3 screws, and it gives you a bit more leverage on here. Then what you do is put your hand from the inside, nice flat palm, and just plop that side in there, sits in, put the arm back on, gently move the sunroof back in till it lines up, and then just clip those back in, and then run it back a few times, make sure it stays where it should be. And there we have one sunroof back in. Very awkward, but she's in there. Probably won't get opened, but we're in, we're sealed. Can't really see, but the cover's inside. So that is how you put a sunroof in. If you've got any questions or little pointers you want to double check on, or if you're doing your sunroof, stick them in the comments. I'm happy to help. So just before we finish off this video, in my other video of the 2 litre 9A, I found, as I was scouring through eBay, a piece of automotive rocking horse feces. So I didn't really have a plan for this engine, apart from rebuild it and overbore it. But now, later down the line, that could end up going in that, or that engine will be going into something else. But that engine there, this is my clue, will end up being a turbo. Because what I have found is this part here. Now if you know, you know. This is probably one of only, I don't know, 300 or 400 ever made. Turbo Technics. So when they left the factory, they got to the dealerships and there was an option of doing a turbo conversion. So literally that goes on, 16 valve throttle body about there, and then turbo down the back to the normal K-Jet. So the idea will be to rebuild that and run it as intended with the K-Jet fueling system. I'm not chasing power, I'm not interested in that, I just want coolness. And there's nothing cooler than a 16 valve K-Jet turbo on original fueling. Just know it's now good. My G60 wheels look good choice. Anyway, yeah, so when that gets rebuilt, that'll be on there with a turbo and some other bits and bobs. Obviously it's not going to be black, I'll clean that up. I've only got 2 minutes. Put it silver, and that as a hole for the other injector, so if it needs more fueling for at higher RPM, you can have an injector running fuel pressure from the metering head and then electrical solenoid one, just to give it a bit more fuel. But that was a good find